Hello, I'm Jen and welcome to my channel. In this video, I will be recapping The Artist's Way Week 8. In this chapter, Julia Cameron talks about recovering a sense of strength. So in this video, I will go through what I got from the readings, and then what I got from the tasks, and just overall my opinion and my experience reading this week. The reading starts off with the topic of survival, and she starts with this quote. All artists must learn the art of surviving loss. Loss of hope, loss of face, loss of money, loss of self-belief. In addition to our many gains, we inevitably suffer these losses in an artistic career. They are the hazards of the road, and in many ways, it's signposts. I feel like the sense of loss of identity, loss of direction, loss of security that I've been feeling, it's been really hard to go and pick up my creative ideas again, and I'm sort of running from them. So I feel like this recovering a sense of strength is really fitting for me right now. In this topic, she also talks a lot about disappointment in oneself, disappointment in one's own failures. She says the unwarned disappointment becomes the barrier that separates us from future dreams. I thought of disappointments I had throughout high school, certain roles that I didn't get that in the moment I was so mad about. Those little disappointments I had kept me from enjoying the roles that I did get cast in, and maybe derailed me from a future in musical theater that I could have had by now. Who knows? There's no point dwelling on the past. However, these disappointments that I let fester inside of me totally kept me blocked from trying anything creative. Julia also mentions surviving teachers, gurus, parents, people along your artistic journey who you confide in, who you trust, and who you get criticism from. She says there is a sacred trust inherent in the bond between a teacher and a student. This trust, when violated, has the impact of parental violation. The guru teacher senses a limit to the student's real talent, or was mistaken in seeing talent, or doubts that there is a talent. She only touches on the impact that an arts teacher can have on a young child. When I was in middle school, I had a choir teacher who basically treated me like she had the entire world in her hands and she could give me the career and make me a star. I was only 11 and it was a middle school. However, this is how I felt in her presence. So when I would get criticism from her, my 11-year-old brain would maximize it to mean that I would never have a career. So I think surviving these and overcoming that initial criticism that has been so maximized from childhood, and learning to kind of shed away all the things that you've heard about yourself from just critics along the way, it's naturally going to happen. That's a major part of surviving as an artist, and it's really hard when you start as a kid because you don't have anything to compare it to, and you don't understand that life goes on and things get smaller and things matter less. But I'm really glad that she touched on this part because a child's brain is so precious and it's so sensitive. The next section is called The Ivory Power, where she discusses university, institutionalized art, and academia. She first makes a jab at professors or teachers who find themselves teaching students art, and she says, I am thinking particularly of a film department chair of my acquaintance, a gifted filmmaker who for many years had been unable or unwilling to expose himself to the rigors and disappointments of creating. Professors and teachers come and they witness their students and they give advice when they can without having actually been through the process of failing. Julia Cameron talks about in a highly civilized and orderly educational institution, there's something very dangerous happening, which is the subtle discounting that may numb student creativity in the academic grove. And this reminds me of a little quote I saw on Instagram or something that basically talked about how every baby, every child is born a genius, and then by 5, only 30% of us are geniuses. And that's because our society belittles our unique expression and creativity and makes us basically into sheep, or just molds our brain so that it fits the systems that our society has built. On the side I wrote, our whole lives we're taught how to read, analyze, to write, speak, to think. No freedom. Geniuses die in captivity. Julia says, in a university setting where the intellectual life is built upon the art of criticizing, the art of creation itself, the art of creative construction, meets with scanty support, understanding, or approval. To be blunt, most academics know how to take something apart, but not how to assemble it. I have more of a yes and brain, a brain that looks at something and it's like, oh cool, I see what you did there, let's add this, rather than like, why is that there? That needs to be taken away. And I didn't mind this about myself until I was told that I need to get better at giving criticism. Well, I don't want to know that. I don't really need to be good at that skill. The skill of criticism? I don't think I need to learn all that. Something that was said to me twice that really hurt my feelings, and it was recently reaffirmed by another comment I heard that I kind of asked for, I guess, was that I am a naive girl, and that I live in my dreams a little bit, and that I have my head in the clouds, and these things have been said to me, and I can remember 3 instances, all different people, and it's really hurt my feelings. And I just want to mention this quote by Julia because it reminded me of these moments. Shamed at their supposed lack of talent, shamed by their grandiose dreams, the young artists may channel their gifts into commercial endeavors and then forget their dreams of doing more groundbreaking and risky work. I've always had this obsession with monetizing my talent, making sure that any art I make has a purpose and that it brings stability and security if need be, and I'm not just gonna do something risky and not know that there's money on the other side of it because of my own stories about money, and also because of the haters who have told me that I'm maybe naive. I don't believe them. It's kind of constructed this story in my head that now everything I do needs to be, as she said, commercial. It needs to be worthy of someone buying it so that I can survive as a human on this planet. Unfortunately, the time that a young artist spends in these commercial endeavors doing maybe just a reduced version of their dreams, they perceive that later as wasted time. And so when it comes time for them to finally go for what they really want to do, even though it's risky, they have to re-feel and mourn the wounding that they endured as young artists. She's using somebody as an example. He had to make his peace with the lost years this wounding had cost him. A page at a time, a day at a time, he had to slowly build strength. Doing a reduced version of your dream is cool, but it's slightly harmful to your inner child because you're almost there. You're almost there, and you're deciding to settle because you're too scared to fail. And this unmourned time, this lost time that she's talking about, reminds me of the book I'm reading called The Body Keeps Score. The Body Keeps Score is about overcoming trauma, to say it very briefly. The author in that book mentions that one of the hardest things for a traumatized person to come to terms with isn't necessarily the act of violence itself or whatever happened itself. It's what the victim did to placate the abuser. These go hand in hand because a young artist who has knowingly lost time has somewhat placated the abuser being our society. Does that make sense? Or the abuser being her censor, which I described in the first week's video. The next section of the reading is called Gain Disguised as Loss. Julia says, every end is a beginning. We know that. But we tend to forget it as we move through grief. Struck by a loss, we focus, understandably, on what we leave behind. The lost dream of the work's successful fruition and its buoyant reception, we need to focus on what lies ahead. For me, this reminds me of those opportunities you get once in a while. Those people you shake hands with and they say, "Hey, come down to my office. You're going somewhere, kid." You know, those kind of conversations, and then they just bubble off. They become nothing. Or, you know, even my show, it was so good and I felt so great. And then nothing happened afterwards. And I don't know what I was expecting. But, you know, I gotta keep moving forward. I gotta keep looking forward. I gotta be on to the next show, on to the next meeting, because you never know which one is going to be the one. The next section is called Age and Time, Product and Process. She starts this off with a bang. Question: do you know how old I'll be by the time I learn to play the piano? Answer: the same age you will be if you don't. Boom. So true. Yeah, that's confrontational, Julia, but it's kind of funny too, and it makes me feel silly, so thank you. She says, creativity occurs in the moment, and in the moment we are timeless. We discover that as we engage in creative recovery, I felt like a kid, we may say, after a satisfying artist date. Kids are not self-conscious, and once we are actually in the flow of our creativity, neither are we. Feeling like a kid seems to be the goal. Having that kind of fun and wonder at the world and just everything's new and exciting. I mean, this seems to be what everyone's chasing, in my opinion. And Julia is correct that when you're working on a creative project and you're in flow and things are going well, you do feel like a kid. She says, focused on process, our creative life retains a sense of adventure. Focused on product, the same creative life can feel foolish or barren. We inherit the obsession with product and the idea that art produces finished product from our consumer-oriented society. So it's all about the product it becomes. Once you let the consumer-oriented society get the best of you, you say, oh my gosh, I quit my corporate job and now I can just make money from my art. But it's no. You're not making money from your art at that point. You're making money from a routine that you've put yourself in. So what's the point? I hate to be bleak, but what's the point of even trying, you know? The next section is called Filling in the Form. Here she kind of reads artists and blocked creatives. She's talking about how we're super dramatic and that we're addicted to anxiety and that we prefer those moments of panic over small little steps in the right direction. Like if we decide one day after maybe seeing a psychic that, okay, no, I'm not on the right path, I have to go be a professional juggler, but how can I be a professional juggler if I have a family? I have to divorce my husband and leave my children to go be a juggler. Like she's talking about how when you decide to make a choice, everything has to be up here, highest level. But it doesn't have to be that. The reason why we go to these extremes of emotion is because we subconsciously do not want the change, so our nervous system tries to scare us out of it. Unfortunately, our nervous system most of the time does work against us because we like the feeling of anxiety. We thrive with negative stimuli. I know it sounds reverse, but unfortunately that's how it is. We're very desensitized. Julia ends the reading talking about early patternings, so how we perceived artists as children and how we interacted with teachers or guidance as children, and also some affirmations. And for my affirmations, I chose, I am a talented person. I have a right to be an artist. My creativity is appreciated. I now treat myself and my creativity more generously. And finally, I now accept the universe's help unfolding my life. Super powerful stuff. And that is the end of the reading, so now I will get into the tasks this week. The first task was goal search. You write down a goal that you have and you analyze it and you make an action plan for it. I really liked this. It felt good to write about my goals. Felt a little scary as well, but also it's great timing because we now have a new moon, so this is the time to welcome in new opportunities. This is the best time to be talking about goals, so good timing on that one. Another task was called New Childhood. So basically we could rewrite our childhood, we could reparent ourselves in a certain way to our liking. So we could write about certain things that we maybe wish we had as children, or things that we wish our parents did as children. There was a task called Color Schemes where we got to describe ourselves as one color. I went to an art exhibit this week and the magenta was speaking to me. It was incredible. It brought me to emotion, and so now I'm thinking that magenta is my color. I will try to find the magenta that I'm talking about and I will put it on the screen because this color, it used to be green. Green was my favorite color for so long, probably like now 6 years, but now it's magenta and I'm obsessed with it. And I loved doing this exercise. 2 other tasks were list 5 things you're not allowed to do and then act those things out. The next one was style search, and you list 20 things you like to do and then you ask yourself, does it cost money? Is it expensive? Is it a loan? Is it job related? So you have your 20 favorite things in the world to do and you get to see actually how easy they are to do just on a whim with no money. That was really fun. Finally, my 2 favorite tasks were Ideal Day and Ideal Day. Basically, I got to write my ideal day now with the things I have in my life, my current apartment, my current roommate, my current bank account. Then, in the other task, Ideal Day, I got to just go crazy, balls to the walls, have a party in my journal about what my ideal day would look like. And again, best time to do this, new moon, really good energy surrounding these tasks. Thank you so much for watching this video. It means a lot to me and I'm excited for next week, which is recovering a sense of compassion. Don't really know how that's gonna go, but we'll see. And thank you again for watching, and I will see you later.